RC. Just want to say real quick, big thank you to everybody who has tuned in, watched this, subscribed. It is incredible how big this is getting. I was not expecting this. I was honestly ecstatic when I got 10 subscribers. So the fact that we're at, last I checked, was 500 is just absolutely incredible, and just goes to prove that there's a lot of people like me out there that want to do this. They want to build their own frames, make their own RC, get it done cheaper. So today we're going to continue on with that one. I'm going to show you all the parts that I bought for it, so that way we can get it finished in this video and get it tested and get it running. So as many of you will remember, this is the truck that I am currently building. We are going to finish up doing everything on the frame, so that way we can mount all of our parts. For the electronics on this truck, I'm going to be running the Spectrum stuff. I personally really like it. Everybody has their own opinions on what would be best or what is better, which company works for them, and you know what? Whatever works for you is what works for you. That's all that really matters. All of mine do run Spectrum. I've had really good luck with it, but if you want to run any other company, more power to you. That's what something like this is about. You do what you want to do, not what other people are telling you to do. So on the basis of picking your own stuff, this is the stuff that I have bought for it. Those coilovers are actually for that one. I took them off just so I could build it. I'm going to run these coilovers because I like them. I'm going to run a forward mount transmission with a transfer case. Got some drive shafts. Really hope those fit. And I got a steering servo, a whole bunch of hardware, and of course scrap metal and a grinder. So on the topic of parts, accessories, electronics, everybody has their own opinion on what they want to run, and whatever you want to run, you should run it. I've had great luck with the Spectrum stuff, so I'm going to keep running with it. I have these parts, this frame. This is what works for me. There's a lot of people out there that are the same way. They want to put together their own frame. When it comes to any RC that you want to build or buy, everybody should just do whatever they want. I will never say anything bad about anybody who wants to buy an RTR. A lot of them are really good, and if you can afford one, then do it. If you can afford the nicer parts from the bigger companies, then do it. All that matters is that you take one of these and you go out there. That's what really matters to me. That's the point I want to get across. I wasn't clear in the last video on my opinion about other RCs that are out there or other RC companies. I don't want anybody to be mistaken that I don't like RTRs. I think they are really good. My wallet, however, can't afford them. So I make my own. And there's a lot of you out there that feel the exact same way. Well, that's enough of me talking, so let's get all this stuff out of the way. I'm going to be replacing these coilovers, like I said. These ones, I like them. I like the color. Somehow, we have to get this transmission in here, along with the transfer case somewhere up here. So we're just going to cut some metal out, make some mounts for the transmission, mount the motor to it, then I'll show you how I mark the holes on the bottom of these things, how to transfer those holes relatively easily onto a piece of metal. Since we're going to be welding, let's just go ahead and take these tires off. That way we don't, melt them. Now I do have power tools, but with everything this small, it just doesn't hurt to just use hand tools. And not everybody has power tools on top of that. So the reason why I didn't include these wheels and tires in the last video and the pricing point is because these are not the final wheels and tires that are going to be going on this thing. Those will come later, after I get paid. First thing I'm going to make is a plate that goes right over here, covers all this stuff up, but it's for a place to mount the transfer case. Okay, so you can see, put the drive shafts on, make sure that I ordered the right ones, which seems like I did. Now I'm going to get a highly accurate measurement. As you can tell, it's kind of a theme here. We do quality measuring. That's about where I want the transfer case. Got good length on both the drive shafts, front and rear. We'll now cut a plate out to sit on top of this to mount this to. Oh, and look, our scrap metal that we used last time, it fits perfectly. Okay, got our plate cut. I'll trim a little off the edges, make it look a bit nicer. Now, are those perfectly straight cuts? No. You want to know how to fix a not so perfectly straight cut? Who's going to know? You know, once it's painted and not see-through. So now we have a plate for our transfer case to sit on. It's going to have to be a little offset because these are the outputs to the differentials, front and rear. So it'll be a little offset, but that seems about right. Let's move all this out of the way. Oh no, I scratched it. It's gonna get a lot worse. Okay, so this won't be news to any of the fabricators out there, but I need to get those holes onto that plate so that I can bolt it to it. If you're a fabricator, just skip ahead or watch to see how badly I can do it. This is how I learned on Go Figure on YouTube on how to transfer those holes onto that metal. Take painter's tape, move it all around all over the place, put it down, and then where the holes are, push down, and sometimes you'll actually find it right there. We have dents of where the holes should be. You take your marker, just like that, on each hole. So now you're going to measure it perfectly, get it right where you want it, where you had it on the frame. Move that. Remember which holes were which on the bottom of this thing for your tape. Remember which ones are which. Then we precisely put it down where we think it needs to go. Verify. Looks good to me. Now with my favorite tool on this channel, we're going to use the hammer to center punch each one of these holes. I'm sorry about the sun, but you know, it's daytime, so I can't control that. Just bear with me while we wait for the sun to slowly progress that way. Then it's not all going to be shadowy. And you take your tape off, and you should have some marks that you can almost sort of see because you didn't hit the hammer hard enough. But as long as you can kind of see them, you'll be able to put the drill bit right on those holes. And always drill a little bit bigger than the size of the bolts that have to go in there, so that way you have some wiggle room for mistakes. Let's see if my precise measurements paid off. And it's not perfect, but we'll make it work. So there it is. It's mounted, screwed on, everything's nice and good. Now let's see how it looks on the frame. Yeah. So I'm sure you're noticing it's not exactly straight. That is the joy of making your own RC, is that nothing has to be exactly perfect. We're not being judged here. And once again, there'll be a body on top of it, so no one will be able to tell that that's crooked compared to the plate that it's sitting on. So now what I'm going to do is drill holes in this plate right here, one on each corner, accurately, of course. Then I'll trace it down onto the frame and drill holes in that. Now that I have used precision guessing, I'm going to precisely guess where I want this, which is about in the middle. That's where it was when we started. Mark some holes. Don't let it move. Get a pen that can reach. Please hold. Now I have a pen that reaches. Now we're going to drill them out. So you may be wondering why I'm drilling holes here when I put all this stuff on the bottom. What I'm going to do is drill just the top part of the frame. Then I'm going to use this very expensive package of 20 for $10 off the internet tap to tap these holes. Drill the correct size hole, that helps too. And there we have mounted transfer case, right where I wanted it to be. So now we're going to start working on the transmission. Now we really have to work some magic because we have to get this mounted somewhere about right there. You want to make sure that when you mount the motor over here, you see my little finger, once you mount the motor over here, that at full compression, that the servo that will be on the axle doesn't come up and hit the motor when it's on full bump like this. So this whole transmission kit comes with brackets right there on the bottom of that, which I just mounted. And these brackets all designed to go into a specific frame. Well, we have a Waffles RC frame. So we are going to use this. That way we have a good place to mount it to. These. So now we're going to have to work some magic, like keeping that thing on without using a bolt, and get this transmission mounted about right there. We will do precision marking. There we go. Okay, so we'll need some metal. So I think we'll do it like that. Very precise measuring. Ah yes, look at that precision. Fit in there without any trickery, editing, or grinding. So close. A little bit more. One takes here. That's all we do. Alright, so I welded this whole piece in here just because it would be easier to weld it in there. Now, obviously, that won't fit, so I'm just going to cut the center section out. Let's see how our precision did. Does it fit? Fits inside. Let's put some bolts through it. In case anybody's wondering, no, I did not let the metal cool down. Sometimes I don't think about stuff like that. Oh, the guesswork is strong. Look at that. And there we are. The precision of guessing and not very clean welds, but that ain't gonna go anywhere. I'm only using regular nuts on these. I am going to put lock nuts on every single bolt that has the ability to. This is all just temporary because I got to take it all back apart and paint it. And there you have it. Got a drive shaft to a transfer case, another drive shaft down there, that drive shaft coming from the transmission. Motor will mount right there. And that is a rolling chassis if you put wheels on it. It is coming together. Got everything in there. Body's over it. By sheer luck, that transmission sits pretty much right where I want it to. Now, I'm going to try and make some posts, body mounts, so that way we can clip this body on and off of here. I'm going to make it out of some 3/16 solid steel. We're just going to make a couple of hoops front and back, posts that come through the body, drill some holes in it, and then we'll go from there. So let me get my fancy tube bender. It's a spacer welded to a bolt, welded to another bolt. That's it. It works. So I use this to do all the bends on that one. Sometimes making your own stuff is the more affordable way to go, because I'm sure they have a tubing bender out there for this. I actually have one for brake lines, but it doesn't get as tight of a radius as I like. So this is what I came up with. Cut the body off, take our high-class tube bender and start bending it, just like so. There we go. Now we have our first 90-degree bend. We'll put it on here. We'll get the other bend in it. That way, loops around, we can weld it to the frame, but we'll actually use a tape measure to measure how high I want the body to sit off of the frame, so it's not sitting on this, doesn't hit anything. We have our 90-degree, nice little hoop, fits around the frame. It definitely only took one try to get this. You ever wondering how I come up with so much scrap metal? That's how. But we learn from our mistakes. I'm just going to take that. place. I'll mark it. Got our hoop in there. Now we'll make the back one. Got those about in place. Need to put them in place and then weld them in there. But got everything sitting exactly where I want it to be. Okay, those are on. I'll do a final weld once all the parts are off of it, but we'll just let those cool down. And there you have body posts. Good morning. Join me the next day. We have the body posts been put through the body. Those will get finished up. I'll grind them, make them smooth. And I actually did use a tape measure. All I did, took the tape measure, put it against the frame, measured it to the fender, equaled it on both sides, did the same for the back. Now we're going to work on putting some sliders on this thing. The reason why it's the next day is because I had to go have a meeting with a very big sponsor, probably the most important sponsor of this channel. I had to go to work. That's my sponsor because that's what pays for this stuff. No sponsors here. So even though my real truck doesn't have sliders, I want this to have sliders, because this is going to get beat up a lot more than my truck. So we're just going to use the same 3/16 solid metal that we used for the hoops for the body mounts, and we're going to make some sliders, then weld it to the frame. So now we're going to use our fancy tube bender, with a little bit of a bend in it. There are sliders. Definitely didn't take 4 attempts. But hey, got them. Guess we should move that before welding. One. And 2. I should explain what I'm doing. Putting on some legs, that way I can mount up to the frame, and this will sit outside of the body to protect it. Now that they have cooled down, I will mark them where I want them. Okay, sorry I didn't record any of that, but it was a bit finicky to get it on there. But there are some sliders. I'll show you real quick what they look like on the body. Here they are with them on the body. Got them tucked up real nice. I'm gonna weld a piece of sheet metal in there, give it something smooth to slide on when it's on the rocks. Now, next thing we have to tackle is a steering servo. Once again, I'm gonna go with what I have, just like that. And that, bolt to that. Seems good to me. Alright, so we'll just take this, mark where I want to cut. There. And here we are. One servo bracket. It's not pretty, but it'll be painted, so it'll be fine. That fits right in there if I would have sanded it off correctly. There you go. Alright, so I had to trim up this corner a little bit. It was hitting one of the control arms. We have a steering servo on the axle. Now, next in line, it's going to make a battery tray. Kind of boring. It's just going to be a flat piece of metal that the battery sits on. Battery tray. See, said it was kind of boring, but got a battery tray on there. So now, put some padding down on it, but then there we are. Now we got a battery on it. So let's get started on the electronics. Get the motor, the receiver, all that stuff on here. And we'll give it a test. Got the motor on. It's a motor ESC combo. The Spectrum Firma 2300 kV. I've had really good luck with them. I know everybody has their own opinions on what is the best brand to use, and like I said earlier, it's completely up to you. I personally don't care which one you use. It's all about what works for you. For me, I have had very good luck with the Spectrum stuff. That's why all of these run them. And also on the same note of whatever works for you, on the basis of people going in the comments and saying that my builds aren't going to work or it's not the correct way to do it, that is your opinion and how you feel that these cars should be built. And maybe this isn't the channel for you. Because here at this channel, I like to build them how I want to drive them. So I build them how I want them to be built. Doesn't fit into apparently the norm, or people say that they're not going to perform. Well, they perform just well for what I like to do with them. You say it's not going to perform. In what way do you mean it's not going to perform? Not going to perform in a competition? You're right, it won't. It's probably too heavy, which, by the way, I'm going to weigh this and the upgraded RTR that I do have. I'll compare them once everything's all together and running and driving and fully completed, kitted out. We'll see how much heavier this one is as compared to the RTR that I do have, which is upgraded and has a lot of metal and brass, so you know it's very different than a stock RTR. But I will do that once everything is fully completed. For those people who say that these things aren't going to work because of this and that, or it's not the right way, this is not the channel for you. This channel is for people like me who want to build their own and take them out and drive them and go take them through the water, take them through the creek, take them across rocks, on trails, stuff like that. Nothing on the basis of I'm going to go compete. These aren't going to compete. I'm not going to compete. I would like to, but I've been learning since I started this channel that the people who like to compete aren't a fan of my builds, and that's fine. I appreciate their builds. I think they're great trucks. But that's not what me and all of you great people who do subscribe or are watching this video and see something that you can make from scratch and go and do whatever you want with it, other than sticking to strict rules of classes or anything like that. If it were up to me, I would start a competition of bring what you have. Big metal thing? Cool. Want to go up against a flat rail chassis? Cool. RTR? Cool. That's how this should be. I guess long story short is, no matter what part of this hobby you are into, whether it's the full true scale or you're doing competitions, whatever you're into, the whole goal of this hobby is to just go out and have fun. Not to belittle people for doing something different than how you would do it. That's my final message on that. So, let me put a few more zip ties on these wires and let's give this thing a test. Turn it on. Movement. And we have steering. Some would call that an RC car. So here at Waffles RC, I have a very different way of testing my vehicles. The goal is, who can get up both steps? To me, that means it is a worthy RC. So each step, that one's a little over 5 inches, that one is 5 inches. Let's see the old one do it, and then the new one. Now let's see if the new one can do it. Back down we go. Got some body trimming to do. Well, I'd have to say that's pretty good for something that can't perform very well. That just goes to show you that even a scratch build truck can do really well. I'm very happy with how this turned out. Alright guys, there you go. It is all finished up. Well, drivetrain wise. So off camera, I'm going to do the finish welding and painting. The reason for not showing me painting this thing is because I'll admit I'm not a good painter. It'll be good enough. I painted all the other ones that were clear. I think it'll turn out pretty good. If you do want to see how to paint one of these, there are a lot of other great YouTube channels out there that paint these things and they do an incredible job. Way better than I could ever do. You can go as basic as just painting it a single color, or as far as doing rust, patina, all that stuff. They really are very good. But me, I'm going to paint it to make it look like my truck, and it'll be simple. But next time you guys see it, I'm going to do a full breakdown on it, how much everything costs, give you exact prices of everything that I paid for this truck. I'll have it all taken apart, Loctited, greased up, and after that, we'll take it out with a couple of the other ones. We'll go out, have some fun, and beat it up like I built it to. Thank you very much for tuning in to Waffles RC. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll be coming back for the next installment when we take this thing out once it's all finalized. And we'll see you again next time. Thank you.